Help support the companies that support our community.
All right, so we did a live show last weekend, and Jamie asked me to do a Fordite project. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to actually do a pendant out of some Fordite that we have. So if you don't know, Robin and I worked for Freightliner trucks for 20 plus years. And so this stuff would build up on the paint racks at work, and we would cut it off and bring it home. So just some cool stuff. Those are like stalactites that just hanging off the rack. So you could go along and cut this stuff off. And so we saved a bunch of it over the years. And so I cut up this little slab right here, and it has all these layers of paint in it. At the height of our production schedule, we were doing 114 trucks a day. So this paint would build up pretty quick. So I have the joiner jig on there with the 10-hole plate. This is the 2-inch button. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the center position to start out with. And then I will use double-sided tape to stick this on there, and we'll go ahead and turn it, and this will be the back side of it, and then we will flip it around like that. So let me grab the double-sided tape, and we'll get it on there and get going. All right, cut off a little piece of it. So the tape I use is called spec tape. Yeah, spec tape, and it's really good double-sided tape. It's expensive, but it works fantastic. And so we'll just stick that onto our waste block there. So that 2-inch button, I just put a piece of 1/4-inch plywood on that and double-sided tape that on, and that way you don't cut into the button when you're turning. So it's just a sacrificial piece. And now I'm going to have a hard time getting the tape off of there. There it goes, just like so. So just going to go ahead and center this thing up a little bit, just like so. And then we'll bring the tailstock up and put a little bit of pressure on it. The tape is pressure sensitive, so just a little bit of pressure like that and you're good to go. Then you can pull the tailstock away. And I'm going to turn on the dust collector too, so that we are breathing the paint fumes. So this paint right here is, I got this piece years ago. So this is actually DuPont paint. We switched to PP&G after a few years, but this is DuPont. All right. Just running through the grits here real quick. This is going to be the back side of it. And we'll just go ahead and finish it, sand it all the way up to 600, and then stick this to the waste block and finish off the front. Just make sure that the back side of it isn't bowed out like that. Make sure it's cupped out just a teeny little bit. It needs to be flat so that the double-sided tape will stick to it or hold it on. All right, have that all sanded up. We go ahead and pop it off. The double-sided tape. We'll grab a new piece and stick this thing back on there. So with this, make you want to get it as close to centered as possible, but with the double-sided tape you can kind of put a little bit of pressure on it, just kind of stick it up there, and then turn the lathe by hand, and that way you can get it centered back up, because it's pressure sensitive and it won't really stick to it. Huh. There we go. So, just put it up there like that. Turn the lathe on. And just keep moving around. It's easier if it's like, the same size as this, but it's a little bit smaller, so. That is pretty close though. All right. Same thing, I'm gonna bring the tailstock up just to put a little bit of pressure on it. It might work with the just my hand, but I'm not sure, so we'll just make sure. All right. So this is going to be the front side of it. Crank the lathe speed back up. It's up to about 2,500. Nope. Erg. All right, I have a piece of stabilized birch here. It has some great color in it. It runs all the way through. So I went ahead and glued in an insert in there, just 5-minute epoxy on those. And then we thread it right onto the mandrel, just like so. And bring the tailstock up. When you're doing handles, pizza cutter handles, bottle openers, whatever, all of it, make sure that the tailstock is up, whether you're doing bottle stoppers or not, just until you get the majority of the turning down. All right. And just like so. So it's stabilized, it's all solid, and we're just going to use a spindle gouge to get it trued up. And I'm going to crank the lathe speed up to 3,000 RPMs. Right about there. I'll go ahead and just clean this off real quick. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start shaping it. It's not quite round yet, but close enough. We'll start bringing it down. So I turned this part down right here to fit the bottle opener, that diameter there. We're going to do an inlay inlay that little piece of Fordite in the top of it. So go ahead and bring that around. And there's going to be a little dimple from the live center, but you don't have to worry about that because you're going to inlay a piece in the top of it. Let me bring this down just a little bit. There we go. And I think there's still a little bit of a flat spot there. There we go. Look at that. Perfect. Had some great color too, and I'll run through a couple of grits dry and then put the oil on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and wait on the inlay piece. I'll sand this first, and then we will put the oil on it. Then we'll cut that recess for the inlay. All right, and I'm using the Doctor's Walnut Oil again. But I hit the lathe in reverse, not forward. So it is stabilized, so I don't know. I don't turn a whole bunch of stabilized wood, so I don't know whether it's going to soak into this or not. It sure darkened it up, though, which is nice. All right, have that all sanded up to 600. It's gorgeous, has some great color in it. So pull this away. Just gonna go in there just a little bit so it stands up a little bit proud. I think it kind of need to, so that straightened it up, but I still need to go a little bit more. I'm going to go down there a little bit deeper. Just bringing down the center here so it doesn't, so it's not, there's no bump in it. All right, I think that's good. There's a little bit of a lip on this, so I'm gonna hit it with sandpaper just real quick, but I think that's gonna pop in there just fine. All right, let me get some epoxy mixed up and we'll get that in there. All right, I'm using the 5-minute epoxy, same stuff I use for the stopper, the stainless inserts, or the bronze threaded rings. So just gonna mix this up and we'll stick it right in there. Then I'll bring that tailstock up and put a little bit of pressure on it to hold it in there for a few minutes. Yeah, it's just 5-minute epoxy. It works great. It's, dries pretty quick. I usually let it set up for about 10 or 15 minutes, but it works good. All right, so we don't need much in here, just a little teeny bit. That's really all we need. All right, I'm just gonna place that right in there like so. I'm gonna bring the tailstock up, and I'm just gonna use a little popsicle stick just to put some pressure on it, just like that. There we go. We'll let that set up, and then we'll come back and put some Pins Plus on it. All right, let it set up for about 10-15 minutes. It's all epoxy epoxied in there. Let's go ahead and put some pins plus on it. And get a nice shine on that. So I'm going to put probably 4 coats on. So you just put a little bit on your paper towel. Coat the whole thing down, about 2,000 RPMs. And then it dries really quick, about 10-15 seconds, and it's already dry. So we'll just keep putting a few coats on. Just kind of work it back and forth. You can kind of see the sheen start to pop on it. Another paper towel. Yeah, it looks great. All right, I'll just put a couple more on. The Pins Plus really kind of protects it from water spots and fingerprints, things like that. And this is a friction polish, and you can put as many coats as you want on. I just kind of found that about 4 of them is about perfect. And you really don't have to wait that long. It's literally 10 or 15 seconds and it's dry to touch. The only thing I do is after the last coat, I let it sit for about, I don't know, half an hour or so before I unscrew it. That way because it is still, although it's dry, it's probably still a little soft. So I noticed that grabbing it right away and, trying to unscrew it from the chuck or the mandrel, you can get some spots on it, so I let it set up. There we go. So we'll let that set up for a minute, and then we'll get a bottle opener screwed onto it.
There we go, little change of plans. So this stuff is kind of tricky to turn because the layers of the paint aren't sanded, so it's not getting a good bond on it. So we do a lot of like keychains and stuff with them where you just kind of hand sand, an abstract shape and then put a key ring on it. But as far as turning it goes, it's a little bit tricky. So no pendant. We decided to switch gears and went with a bottle opener and inlay that in there. It's super cool stuff. But even if you don't have something like this, where Robin and I used to work at the plant, even like a cabochon or a contrasting wood, any kind of little detail like that is really nice, and it's pretty easy to do. All right, hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next week. Take care.